people have different perspectives on the economy. Some people say that they're living just fine, but the reality of the situation is that gas prices are high. Not just in America. Grocery prices are high. This is all over the world, and it's like this more than ever. And we got people that's sharing their experiences.
We are living in a time where people are literally paying to go to work. They paying $40, $60, $80. Hell, in my case, $100 in the tank just to drive somewhere that still doesn't pay enough to breathe easy. That's not a career. That's survival with a time clock. People are working full time and still skipping meals to stretch groceries, leaving items at the register, choosing which bill can be late this month, swiping a card hoping it goes through, praying nothing else breaks because there's no backup money left. And the wild part, the people struggling the hardest are often the ones doing everything they were told to do. Go to work, stay consistent, be responsible, work harder, pick up extra shifts. Meanwhile, the rent keeps climbing. Insurance keeps climbing. Groceries keeps climbing. Gas keeps climbing. But these wages, baby, they seem to be stuck in traffic. It's bad when people can't even enjoy a day off because they're calculating what it's going to cost to leave the house. Folks are sitting in parked cars longer before going inside because the stress followed them home. People are driving with the check engine lights on, praying the car survives another paycheck cycle. The side hustles, they stopped being extra money and became survival plans. Coupons became financial strategy. Silence became stress management. And treating yourself became buying name brand groceries again. And let's talk about another sign of the times. People aren't asking for luxury anymore. They're asking for relief, a livable check, one deep breath, 1 month without struggling, one grocery trip that doesn't feel disrespectful. That's where people are right now. Not lazy, not irresponsible, just tired of fighting to survive a life they're actively participating in every single day. And somehow they still keep going. They still getting up. They still clocking in. They still trying. That's the part people overlook. Because in today's world, a lot of people aren't living. They're managing pressure full time.
Hey, not everyone are interested in buying a home for 400 and 500,000. And the reason why they don't want to buy a home for that money, because they're not planning on having family or having kids. So therefore, you don't need that space. And I wish they could build just more affordable home that people can get into, that's not expensive. That way they can have, somewhere to live, somewhere to call home. You don't need a 5-bedroom, 3 baths and all of that extra space. Some people don't want all of that. They just want affordable living. Maybe a 1-bedroom, 1.5 bath, your kitchen, your wash area, and a little extra space just in case if you have family that comes over or friends. So I think we need to, or the investors need to start looking into building more affordable homes and just smaller homes for people that not planning on having kids, or they don't want all of that stuff. Something that's more achievable. That way, the American dream of just owning something. Because some people are okay with that lifestyle. They don't want a big home.
Feed them bread and entertain them with the circus to keep them occupied so they're not paying attention to the people in power and what they're doing behind the scenes. What happens if the middle class is gone? Right? Because essentially the middle class is the bread and circus, right? The objective, if I'm like an elite and I want to keep my population, in order and civilized, I make them middle class, right? So what happens if the 1% and all the corporations have all the money? What happens is society collapses right? Because like every human relationship costs money, right? Like literally, if there's no middle class in America and the 1% has all the money, America doesn't work, right? So what does that lead to? I don't know. I think we're about to find out. I think I think America is going to break. And then what happens after that? I don't know.
So $130,000 a year is now becoming the new poor. Right now, the average household income is $83,000. That's the median household income. But then if you do the math about the taxes they take out of your paycheck, the cost of housing, the cost of transport, the health insurance premiums, and childcare, like if you look at this graph, you're going to see that $83,000 on the average cost will leave you $10,000 in the red, right? And to be comfortable, based off of the old 1960 standard of poverty rate, it was based off of how much it would take a family of 3 to eat back then. So she would take that number and multiply it by 3, and that number would be like the golden number. They'll spend a third of their money on food, and everything else would comfortably fit within the other 2/3 of that number. But back then, food was the most expensive thing. Housing was cheap, transportation was cheap, and everything. But by the modern standard, if you take that same metric she used back then and shift it to now, you'd have to be making $130,000 to be comfortable the way people were under the same metric, the same mathematics back in the 1960s. And it's incredible to hear that number, $130,000, 6 figures is the new poor. But it makes sense when you consider everything is considered luxury. All the prices have gone up. Even my cat's angry about it. I hear her screaming over there. She knows it's ridiculous that everything is a luxury, because not everything is a luxury, but everything is getting that premium price tag because they're slapping luxury on every good we consume. And if you want to eat real food, even that's considered a luxury. So they're putting extra money on that as well. So even though I feel like it's really crazy to consider, that number is actually correct. $130,000 does seem to be the new poverty line for a family of 4. It's hard times out there, and I know a lot of people are like, I don't make that type of money, but it is hard times out there because of unrealistic expectations from the millionaires. And as you can hear, my cats are very outraged by these prices as well. So y'all have a good day.
This economy is some bullshit. And I know it's some bullshit because I remember when I was in high school, I took a personal finance class. And one of our assignments was we had to find a career we wanted, right? We had to go on Indeed or a job website and find like a wage, a salary, whatever for that job, right? Then with that salary, we had to find a house that we could afford and a car that we could afford, right? I don't remember what career, whatever that I picked, but I know it was around making like $80-some thousand a year. I was able to have that career, have a nice car and a nice house and still be chilling. I don't think people understand how out of hand the cost of living is. For a long time, a brand new car was gonna run you between 20 to 25 stacks. Them luxury BMWs, Mercedes, whatever, that'll run you about 30. You know what I'm saying? Them nice Altimas, Camrys, and all this and all that. Brand new, them things used to be about 15 or 18 stacks. Nice ass apartments. They gonna run you about $800 or $900. A regular, schmegular apartment, maybe about $600-700. You living in the hood, it was probably about $400 a month. You know, everything made sense. Now, especially with the apartments, it's either I want to get taxed for some bullshit or I want to live in the hood. There's like no in between anymore. The housing market is crazy. Used cars, the price that people be trying to sell these used cars for, is, if you want a decent price for a used car, it's gonna have over 100,000 miles on it.
G'day everyone. Before I say what I'm going to say, I just want everyone to know that I do love my life. I have a great life, beautiful home, an amazing partner. Like, I actually have nothing to complain about. But just the other morning, we were walking at the beach and we sat down and we were watching the sun come up on the sea. And beside us there was a guy parked in his van. Anyways, he popped the back of his van, got out, went and sat on the sand dune, was eating like a glass jar of chia seed pudding, and I just thought to myself, fuck, what the fuck am I doing? Like, sometimes it just comes into my head, like, everyone, like, is tied down with a mortgage, and bills are going up, and, like, groceries are going up, electricity, water, like, you just can't get a break. Like, I don't know about everyone else, but it gets so exhausting just watching everything go up and being powerless to sort of stop it from happening. And I just sort of watched this guy in his just such a simplistic life, but it was just so beautiful to watch him just open up the back of his van, go sit on the sand dune, and just happily watch the sunrise, eating his chia seed pudding. And I'm just like sitting there going, wow. Like, sometimes I would just love to just sell everything I own and just get a van and just live a simple life without any stress or any hassles. It just makes me just wonder sometimes, if what we're doing is right. Society sometimes just seems so messed up. Like, you try and get ahead in life and then bang, the government finds another way to make a roadblock in front of you, another challenge. Like, sometimes it just gets exhausting. Am I alone in thinking this, or is everyone right now just fucking tired?
So one thing I've learned from working at the food bank is that as things get worse, things get worse. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'll tell you what I mean. So the cost of living has gone up a lot. And that means that a lot of people that traditionally wouldn't rely on our food banking services are. And that means that they're pushing out people that have traditionally, relied on them for everything out. And so the need for access is going up, but the ability to increase access is at the same level. We've increased the number of people we can serve by 16, which is more than nothing, but could be higher, right? And so that is bad. But the other thing that's bad is just on a donation standpoint. If I'm like Walmart or Aldi or Gordon, which are three of our biggest donors at the food bank, and I'm not bringing in enough money, I'm not going to be able to produce enough to donate. And this is my prediction. I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I think that as the economy gets worse, the donations are going to get worse. I think that there's kind of a bad negative relationship that when things are good in the economy, the food bank does better when there's less need. But when there's more need, the food bank does worse. And I think that there's going to be some friction between, things getting really bad, especially with our government. That's kind of a bury itself in the sand type government saying, oh, there's nothing wrong. People are doing great. This is the best America's ever been. When really, people are hungry and they're looking to offset the cost of groceries by any means necessary. It's just kind of scary. But I think that there needs to be some change in expanding federal programs so that when things get bad, food banks and food pantries become more resilient and can serve more people instead of how they're currently set up, which is when things get bad, things get worse. So that's what I've been thinking about.
The reason minimum wage going up would be good for literally everybody, even the people that are mad about it, is pretty straightforward, honestly. The people I see complaining about it were like, well, I work at this job here and I only make $25 an hour and they want the minimum wage workers to make $25 an hour. Yeah, they deserve enough money to be able to buy food too. But the thing is, it's only going to help you. So imagine you work at a sales job. Everybody who gets hired in at base level, warehouse workers, sales staff, cashiers, they now make $25 an hour. You were an assistant manager. You weren't making you were making $23 an hour. Well, now you make $25. That's the same pay as the bottom, entry levels. No, they have to raise it. They have to, because who would take a manager position and make the exact same amount of money as people who have 1/10 of the responsibility? To be competitive, they'd have to raise that amount, and it trickles up. If you're working medicine, if you work in some sort of hospital and they're only paying you $22 an hour, and then suddenly the minimum wage is $25, they would have to raise your pay, because no one's going to work at a hospital and work all those crazy shifts and those extra hours and being on call when they could just head down to Walmart and have a way easier job for the exact same money. The reason that you get paid more than a minimum wage worker now is because your skills are more valued. They would still be more valued. The scale just changes. So if you have years of experience over somebody, so if you have additional education, training, degrees over other people, then your skills are more valued and you would also get more money. You would have leverage at interviews. You would have leverage at your yearly reviews. You would have leverage to raise your income, because if the person at McDonald's, the person who was cleaning floors is making $25 an hour, and they say, well, we can offer you $27. I'm like, no. Because I've been a manager, and I'm just going to let y'all know up front, you'd have to give me a lot more money than the people below me to get me back in that position. It is stressful. It is unthankful. It is the worst job I've ever had, is being stuck in middle management, and $2 an hour is not worth my sanity. And don't be one of the people asking, well, how will they afford it if we make the pay go up? And 6 years of record profits. I think they have it in the budget. The top 1% of this country have gained about $13 trillion in net worth in the last 3 years. There's money.
At the store yesterday, I spent $336.88 on basics, on absolute necessities. And we're going to talk about it because that was our entire grocery budget for the month. I try and do $150 to $180, $180 on the high end every 2 weeks. We try and eat as healthy as we can. And I know that that is a very generous budget. And I did that in one trip with coupons. I saved $71.36 using coupons. Some things that stuck out to me yesterday, and I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee, for anyone who is not here. Chicken was $5.50 a pound. What? Sodas of any kind, $11.39. What a random number, first of all. $11.39. Milk was $3.50. I don't even want to talk about eggs. And I'm going with like baseline stuff, y'all. I'm not buying name brand. The things that we were out of yesterday that cost so much money are as follows. We were out of garbage bags. We were out of laundry detergent. We were out of dish detergent. We were out of all meat. We were out of canned vegetables. I don't even buy fresh produce because it's too expensive. And that's trying to eat healthy. We don't buy sodas. The one thing I splurged on yesterday was a thing of juice because it was on sale for $3.50 from like $4.99 or something like that. So I did get that. Feminine hygiene products, allergy medication, because if you're like us here in Tennessee, we're dying from the allergies. And then I went to put gas in my car and it was $4.16 a gallon. The cost of living is so absurd. And we were trying to do things cheap. I don't buy name brand stuff. The only name brand things I buy, well, that's not true. I don't buy name brand like extras and things like that. I do buy the name brand trash bags and laundry detergent. That I do. But anytime we go store brand, milk, eggs, canned vegetables, this is just a tirade at this point for how much the cost of living is. So you bet your bottom dollar we are going to make these groceries stretch because we have no choice. I can't go find another $180. I don't have it. We spent $336. That's our budget. We've got like $27. That's not true. $24 left for groceries for the rest of the month on our high-end budget. This is insane. We do well for ourselves. We do well enough that my bills are paid and I stocked my pantry, my fridge with the basics. So I'm just so frustrated that this is where everything is right now. And I know I'm not the only one, but we're going to have to completely redo our entire budget for May. Let me know if that's something that you guys want to see. I'll be happy to share it. This is insane.
7 things the middle class will not be able to afford in the next 5 years, and I think it's a lot sooner than that. Mm-hmm. Number 1, housing. Unless you inherited property, struck gold, or plan to live with family,
it's going to be impossible.
Yeah.
Cars, new ones, not realistic.
Vacations. Travel savings is quietly becoming survival money.
Healthcare, insured or not, you're paying premiums, co-pays, deductibles. And that's going to eat up a lot of your money.
And medications. 5, child care. $2,000 per child per month. It's not child care, it's a second mortgage.
Yes, it is. And it's slowly been getting so much more expensive for people
Everywhere.
everywhere. Retirement. Most people aren't planning retirement. They're planning how to get through next week and the week after that and so forth. It's just impossible.
Savings, just not happening. So tell us, how are you getting through each day? We would like to know.
Let us know.
How is it possible that every single city in the world right now, it seems, is going through a housing crisis? You hear the same stories all the time. There's not enough jobs, the jobs that do exist don't pay enough, and nobody can afford rent. And it seems like this is a global issue, not just here in the States. And I'm wondering, how can this continue? I mean, is it going to be the same 5 years from now? It just seems like we are on this trend, like we're going off the cliff of affordability. And nobody can make it work. And if every city becomes unaffordable and everybody's leaving the cities, what's going to happen to the cities? Are they just going to be ghost towns? Is everyone going to move out to the country? It's really fascinating to think about. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where we go from here. You know, I say a lot, it feels like we're in the end game of capitalism. Of course, right as we're all, getting out of college and getting out into the world is when everything becomes unaffordable. It's like we're in an everything bubble. It feels like we're right around the corner of something happening and nobody quite knows what. And it's kind of scary. But it's also kind of like we're all in this together. You know what I mean? We're all in this boat of nobody can afford anything together. I don't know.
The health insurance industry is an absolute sham. I don't know how I'm paying $1,500 a month for health insurance, but every single person in my policy has a $6,000 copay, which means I've been going to the doctor all year. I thought my copays went towards our premiums and the amount that we had to pay to get coverage. However, it doesn't. My wife just had a serious event. She had to go to the hospital. She had to have life-saving surgery. And we got a bill in the mail from the hospital for over $3,000 for this procedure. And I'm thinking back, I'm paying $1,500 a month for this health insurance. I've personally paid thousands of dollars over the course of this year in copays for myself and stuff that I had to go to the doctors for. So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm going to spend $1,500 a month for the next 12 months. What is that? 18 grand. And then I have to spend $6,000 a person just to get them to cover things. So you're looking at, we have 5 people in our family. If all of us have to go to the hospital, that's $30,000 in copays that we have to pay on top of the $18,000 in monthly charges to actually get coverage. As a father of 3, I'm strongly considering canceling our health insurance policy, which feels very irresponsible and wrong, but I can't remember the last time I spent over $48,000 in a year in health costs between copays and health insurance and all of this stuff. If I just pay cash, I'm never going to pay anywhere near that amount. For instance, the surgery my wife just had, if we paid cash on that surgery and we didn't have insurance, it would have ran us about $1,200. But because we had insurance and the insurance wasn't going to cover it, we have to pay what the insurance was going to pay, which is over $3,000. Are other families seeing the same thing? Maybe I'm just being unreasonable and crashing out here, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
Let's talk about the signs of the times. People aren't asking for luxury anymore. They're asking for relief, a livable paycheck where they can take a deep breath. 1 month without struggling, one grocery trip that doesn't feel disrespectful. And you got people out here that's just trying to make it. They're not lazy, not irresponsible, just tired of fighting to survive a life that they're actively participating in every day.